of Kings. You are the God of glory, the God of honor, the God of power. Savior, Savior, hey, hear my heart will cry when others had go holy do not pass me by. Savior, Savior, hear my heart will cry. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. You are not a respecter of persons. We call upon you, Lord, and we say, Jesus, Yeshua, 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 Yeshua HaMashiach, Yeshua, 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 Yeshua. Yes, Lord. 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 We bless your holy name. We bless your holy name. We bless you, Lord. We bless you, Lord. We bless you, Lord. We bless you, Jesus. The Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, the God of glory, the God of honor, the God of power. That's who you are. That's who you are. That's who you are. In Jesus' name. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The Lord is good. The Lord is wonderful. Here we are, connected once more, Monday evening. We are connected by the grace by the grace of the Lord who enables us to be together Monday evenings on this program where we talk about matters concerning our lives. And I just want to greet all of you, UBN viewers, be greeted wherever you are connected from. And thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning into UBN TV. And I want to say Christmas greetings to you and to your family. And let me also greet all of you who are on the UBN app as well, in Jesus' name. And all of you who are on YouTube, be greeted there, as well as all of you who are on the website right now streaming live. And wherever you are connected from, I just want to say welcome to this program in the mighty name of Jesus. And let me also greet those who are on Facebook right now in the mighty name of Jesus. Be greeted wherever you are connected from. It's wonderful to see that you are online right now. And what I would encourage you to do, whatever platform that you are in, make sure that you share that with your contacts. And if you are on Facebook right now, just share this broadcast with all your contacts so that they can be able to come online. You can WhatsApp other people and tell them that the time has come, the time has arrived for us to talk about important things that concern our lives. And all of you, just share this broadcast wherever you are. If you are on UBN TV, just WhatsApp other people to tell them that we are starting. I saw that the topic of today has sparked so much interest from the reactions that we saw on all the platforms, be it Twitter, be it Facebook. We have seen that many people are interested in this topic, hence we are about to deal with it. And what I want to say right now is that may the Lord lead us as we go on with this discussion. May His Spirit guide us in whatever that we are going to be talking about, because in whatever that we do, we rely upon Him. He gives us wisdom and He gives us direction, and we rely on Him for everything. Hallelujah. Amen. Share the broadcast there, Katu. I can see that you are online. Bob Beatrice just said, share the broadcast, Lydia. Let others that we are online so that others can tune on to their TVs so that we discuss this issue. And I would really appreciate that you participate. I'm not alone tonight here. I am with some distinguished guests who have joined us, who are going to be talking to us. I have got from the side of our government, from the Department of Basic Education, we have got Mr. Elijah Mhlanga, and it's so wonderful to be with you, Mr. Mhlanga, where we are going to be discussing, should we have alcohol sold on school premises? This is a very serious topic, and is worth discussion, is worth these engagements that we are doing right now. Good evening to you, Mr. Mhlanga.
Yeah, good evening to you, Pastor, and everyone else who's on the line. I saw Advocate Kupe there, as well as Dr. Cereseto.
Good evening, Tate.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mhlanga. You have already spoken about the other guests who are online right now, like our Apostle Kupe. Good evening to you, ma'am.
Good evening to you, Mamruti from Durban, and to all our other guests, and Tate Mhlanga, as well as our esteemed speaker from the governing body, Cereseto.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, you have already introduced Cereseto, and we thank you very much for that. Cereseto, good evening to you. The apostle has already introduced you, and we thank you for that. You can just greet everyone now.
And certainly I greet all of you, my fellow panelists here, and to you and to everyone who's tuned in whatever way. Thank you. I look forward to the discussion and hearing what others have to say.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you. You have heard, blessed viewer, we have got our guests here from the Department of Education, Anthea Mhlanga, and then we have got our Apostle Kupe, and then we have got Dr. Anthea Cereseto from the governing body foundation. We are connected tonight because we want to talk about this important topic, very, very important, a topic that concerns our future because we're talking about our children here. And I saw the reactions from the time that people got aware that the minister, the Honorable Minister of the Department of Basic Education, Anthea Mhlanga, it is said that she has said that there is going to be amendments, proposed amendments to the laws governing the provision or sale of alcohol on school premises. And we have heard from quite a number of people. There are those who are saying that it can be done, and because it will really help in fundraising, it will really help governing bodies in getting some funds which now go to other people who get it informally without regulation. And we have got those who are saying, yo, not at our schools. We have got young children there, and when they are exposed to parents and or adults who are drinking, we might be teaching them something else. Some are saying that we already have serious problems in South Africa with our youth, with our young children. We don't want to be dealing with extra burdens at this time. So there is a lot that is coming in. There is a lot of reactions coming from different people and from different structures. I saw that NAPTOSA is saying that, okay, we can cautiously approve this, go for this, but we find SATU saying, we are not supporting this. So we are really hearing from different people saying different things and different organizations saying different things. But I'm happy that, blessed viewer, tonight here, we have got the spokesperson. So we are going to get information from the horse's mouth. Mr. Mhlanga, let us hear from you what this is all about. Just educate our viewers, tell our viewers what inspired this and what it's all about. Because when it's coming from the Department of Basic Education itself, then we are going to get the correct information. Because I understand that with the headlines that we saw on the newspapers, we heard some saying that that is just sensationalism. It's not like that. Let us hear from you.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to represent the department on this one. You are correct. The headline that I saw projected earlier on the screen is missing the point. And I think even the question that we are asking today on the poster that you also distributed is also missing the point because it aligns itself to what that headline there has said. And I've also realized that a lot of people who are commenting on this, they are commenting on the basis of the news reporting on this matter. As someone in education or as a teacher, if we were in a classroom, I would say, those who have read the bill, please raise your hands. I don't know how many hands would go up, because if you have not, then it means that you don't know that there are actually 56 amendments to the Basic Education Amendment laws. And there are so many issues that are in there. And for some reason, because a journalist chose to focus on this one, and then they even went further to sensationalize this matter, it has grabbed the attention of South Africans. This matter is not new. It started way back in 2013, when the minister appointed a task team to do a review of all the laws governing the basic education sector. And a lot of work went into that, and consultations after consultation took place. So what you see in this document is not the minister's view, is not the department's view, is the reflection of consultations, the things that people have proposed should happen in schools. So this projection of this matter in a way that it says, should alcohol be sold at school? It makes it sound like tuck shops will sell alcohol. You can go anytime there and grab any alcohol of your choice whenever you want, in between periods, during school hours, which is completely wrong. It's just very sad, in fact, that we've come to this type of journalism. But we have since responded to correct it, to say the bill is very clear that it says for fundraising purposes and at events organized by the governing body for fundraising purposes. And remember, schools also get used as venues, not just by SGBs, but by churches themselves, by private organizations, individuals who hire out a school hall for activities that have got nothing to do with the school. But a school is not just a school, it's a community property. It's one that should be accessible to members of the public. And if the event that they are going to have will involve the sale of alcohol for whatever reason, the minister in the Gazette, she says that should be possible. It will be regulated. It's not about selling this to children. It's about selling this to adults who are already consuming alcohol, but using a school as a venue for the event. So we need to start first by correcting the question to say, should alcohol consumption be allowed within school premises for special events? That should be what we're discussing, because that's what's in the Gazette.
Okay. As I asked when I started, what inspired this, Mr. Mhlanga? Is it just about fundraising?
As I said, there are 56 amendments that we are changing in the Schools Act, as well as the other laws that govern the sector. You've got the National Education Policy Act as well. And you have other laws like the Employment of Educators Act. So we're basically looking at overall the entire legislation that is governing the sector to say, what is it that we need to change? I mean, if you look, there's a law there that says a parent who prevents, or anybody for that matter, who prevents a child from going to school, they will be jailed for 12 months, which means you'll spend a year in jail now if you don't support, or if you don't make sure that your child goes to school. At the moment, it's 6 months. And we feel that if that 6 months is not enough, it should be 12 months. So that's just the other change. There are other changes as well about admission policy and all of these things. So it's not just about alcohol. This is one out of 56 other things that we're not talking about. A few years ago, when we were talking about the Bella Bill, we were talking about the powers of governing bodies. And governing bodies said, no, the department wants to take away our powers. And everybody discussed that, asking, why does the department want to take away the powers of SGBs? Because the SGBs at the time raised concerns about what affected them. The whole country discussed that. And right now, because someone decided to focus on alcohol, everyone is focusing on that. But really here, it's about supporting schools. It's about regulating what is already happening. By the way, it happens right now if a school governing body wants to host an event for fundraising purposes, they write a letter to the department asking for permission to do that. Invariably, they get that permission to do that. But you also have schools, boarding schools, where the teachers who live within school premises can't bring alcohol into their residences because it is not allowed. Now we are saying, if you live within the school, you should be allowed to bring your alcohol for your own personal consumption. So that's what is being regulated. So it's not really about the sale of alcohol willy-nilly. We're talking about a regulated environment where schools should be able to raise money and then do what they need to do with that money, which in all the cases is really about improving the school and making sure that it's maintained and it has facilities that the department would normally not provide the school with. So that's really where we are. And it's not just the department saying this. And by the way, I can tell you this, that initially, the minister herself, personally, she was opposed to this. But when it went to a public participation process, people said, no, it's a good idea. We think it must happen. So that's why I'm saying what you are seeing now is what South Africans feel should happen in schools under regulated conditions.
Okay, there you go, blessed viewer, UBN viewer. Mr. Mhlanga says that this is what South Africans want. This is what South African wants. So if it is said like that, I just wonder, you are online, you are hearing that. We shall hear from you tonight. What is it that you say about this? Because from what I saw, it's not like many people were aware of what is going on. But here you are hearing it for yourself, that there has been consultations and people said this is what they want for their schools, that alcohol can be sold in school premises for fundraising purposes during special events. Let us hear from you, Dr. Anthea Cereseto. Just tell the viewers what the foundation is all about and what is your stand regarding this. What is your understanding regarding this? Over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to Elijah for his scene setting. We agree with what has just been said, and there was consultation, that is true. I think what this particular amendment does is it brings some reason to the situation. I think it is handling the matter in a reasonable way and allowing communities, which the school is in, to make decisions for the school community, rather than taking the powers away from people in general and in fact making laws that govern everybody's little action, that in fact the amendment allows school communities to make decisions for their own community. I think what's really important for everybody to hear is that this is not a free for all. This is not somebody waking up one day and saying, let's sell alcohol tomorrow at our school. This will be a highly considered process. And so you would have events on school calendars. And there may be a fundraising event. It's very necessary. The funds that schools receive, both fee-paying and the no-fee schools, are insufficient to cover the needs without stretching parents too far. So a school decides on fundraising events, and amongst those events, they may choose one that is going to serve alcohol. Now, that's a very big step to be taken. The data is identified. The school governing body, the principal and the educators of the school, and the head of Department of Education in the province all have to be involved in this decision. And the decision is then made, yes, we have decided that our community wants to have a beer tent, let's say, at this particular big event that the school is hosting. Then they have to go through the entire process of making the applications, getting approval. If liquor is to be sold, remember, it is also governed by all the laws concerning the sale of liquor. So a liquor license has to be obtained. So it's highly regulated, and it will be a pretty rare occasion for a school to have it. So that's the sales stuff. And that's not going to happen often. And the schools that don't want it don't have to do it. So we hear from different teacher organizations. They have different perspectives on this. If a particular group of teachers and the school community and the parents of that community say, we don't want alcohol in our schools because we think it is setting a bad example for our children. We already have problems with sale of alcohol and abuse of alcohol, and we are suffering as a community because of alcohol abuse. We don't want to bring it into our schools. That school community, teachers and so on, can in fact say, no, not here, not in our school. So it gives the freedom to make decisions. I think that's really important. But there's a very important provision in this section, in this amendment. It's very detailed. And as Elijah has said, people, please read all of it. There has to be supervision. There has to be someone making sure that the alcohol is consumed in an appropriate way and that no children gain access to the venue where it is sold. So that's a provision. You have to comply with that. There are other provisions too. But if we go to the use of school facilities, it's a wasted resource. If a school has a hall that it could rent out to people for weddings, and the people who want to have a wedding can't actually serve alcohol because alcohol may not be brought onto the premises, we're actually stopping the school from allowing that resource to be used. If the people who want the wedding there said we're going to serve champagne to propose the toast to the bride and groom, that would be illegal if we don't go through the process. So we have a process that's got to be followed. There has to be assurance that at that particular wedding, children will not be served alcohol. All of that is actually in the bill. So I think there are a lot of protections. It gives freedom of choice to be able to do it with many restrictions, and it enables people to refuse to use the school premises for the purposes. So everybody can win on this particular matter, and it gives certainty, because currently we have a situation where if you take the definition of a school activity, which includes a social event, a group of educators would not be permitted to go to a licensed restaurant and have alcohol because it's a school function, it's a school activity. Just the teachers at a licensed venue, but they can't do it because it falls under the category of a school activity. It's a little bit of a nonsense. So we're by having this amendment, we're clearing up certain things that were, what shall we say, gray areas, or where people were doing things that strictly interpreted were not possible. So I do think it is helpful to schools. There's a lot more to be said, but perhaps the advocate is ready to give us some interesting input from her perspective.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cereseto. We'll definitely come back to you because there are many questions that are coming through. And as you suggested, let's pass and go to the advocate. Apostle, there we go.
Thank you so much, Mamaruti, Pastor Mukuba, and also for your opening remarks, Dr. Mhlanga, and explaining the scenario, and also to Dr. Anthea. Thank you also for your remarks. And I just want to start by addressing Dr. Mhlanga's comments, which he so rightly said, that this is not a new introduction, and he alluded to the fact that discussions have been as far back as 2013, And I do recall even as far back as 2016, again, there was an aim to change the Western Cape Provincial School Education Act 12 of 1997. This was reportedly to raise funds for the school, and the Western Cape MEC, I think, was the one who was moving that. So we know that it's not new. And we know also that the bill proposes to amend the South African Schools Act 1996. I just want to assure Anthea Mhlanga that we've read the bill. I was one of the ones who raised my hands. So Act number 84 of 1996, and also the Employment of Educators Act 1998, Act number 76 of 1998. Now, the particular provision that we're looking at is provision K, which now wants to refine the provisions relating to the possession of drugs on school premises or during school activities, and to provide for conditions under which liquor may be possessed, sold, or consumed on school premises or during school activities. That is the specific provision that is being proposed to be amended right there. And of course, there's been gazettement of these amendments. Now, the first thing I want to say, and then let me just say that I think some of the concerns that are being expressed and questions which I also have, the ones I'm going to be raising, it's as an attorney and as a lawyer. I know that we have law and we have legislation. And the challenge is never in the drafting of the legislation. The challenge always lies in the implementing of the legislation. And that's what I want to focus myself on, because that's where I think the concern of the South African public lies in the actual implementation of this legislation. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. Right now, as we're talking, in terms of the legislation, it is illegal to sell alcohol on school premises. It is actually illegal, but people are doing it. It's being done. So it means there's a law and there's a legislation, but it's not being abided by. So then we have to ask ourselves the question, that even if we put in all these regulations and protections that we're talking about to say there are protections, are they going to be abided by? Because even now, people are not abiding to the law. So what assures us that by putting in all these fancy protections that we call protections, what assures that is going to protect the learners that are already there? So that's a question we have to look at. And look at our situation and our context in South Africa. When you look at law, you have to look at the challenges in society. We cannot bring in and embrace laws just because this nation has passed it or it's best practice. We have to address them looking at our own situation in South Africa. Do we have a drug and alcohol problem in South Africa? Yes. Do we have a drug and alcohol problem in the schools? Yes. At a school, Makosini School in Soshanguve, a study that was done showed that 35% of males, young males, were alcohol bingers. 29% of young females were having problems with alcohol. Last 5 days, I've been spent looking for a missing learner who went missing. And when I was talking with the detective sergeants, the first question they asked me was, does he drink alcohol? Because alcohol is one of the biggest challenges that learners and students are having. So when we look at legislation and when we look at compiling legislation, permissive legislation that allows things, we have to look at it from the context of our reality in South Africa. So the interests of our children and the practicalities of what's happening on the ground should drive our legislation, not the fundraising abilities of the school. Because in my days, we raised, I'm almost 60. We raised funds by going on sponsored walks. We did raffle tickets. There were so many creative ways of raising funds. Why do we have to resort to raising funds through alcohol when we know that South Africa is a nation that struggles with alcohol. GBV figures and statistics that we are facing are all alcohol driven. As a nation, should we not be looking at ways in which we can provoke our nation to look for solutions that are not non-alcohol related, that are building, whereby we can build our nation and build in aspects of morality and promote nation building without provoking and promoting alcohol consumption in a nation that has so much to offer. So, and I'm so blessed and happy to hear that Minister Angie Motshekga actually never supported this, and that I've heard her statements, and I've heard even in Tate Mhlanga talk about zero tolerance, that we support zero tolerance at schools. And the clause 8 was an amendment that supported zero tolerance. Clause 8A of the South African Schools Act in paragraph B says, no person may bring liquor onto public school premises or have liquor in his or her possession, or consume or sell liquor on public school premises, or during any public school activity. As Section 8A stands, it currently supports zero tolerance. When we amend it, it will no longer support zero tolerance. The minute you change this clause, you are no longer adopting a zero tolerance stance. You are tolerating alcohol in certain instances. And the one last thing maybe I want to say at this point is to say our, beautiful Department of Basic Education is saying students may not or will not have access to alcohol. The breaking news is that students already have access to alcohol, even in this time of illegality. When it's illegal, they have access to it. And I've mentioned the study of Makosini Secondary School, where, so the department, I'm saying to us as a school governing body, as a Department of Basic Education, bearing in mind that alcoholism is a serious issue, which we must address for the betterment of our next generation of leaders who will lead this nation. We are already sitting on an alcohol and drug related problem at the schools. Should we not be focusing our energies on how to prevent alcohol on school grounds rather than, making it admissible? Should we not be focusing on how to tighten legislation and policies around alcohol in schools? Should we not focus on how to implement those policies and educate learners on the dangers of alcohol? I think it's a sad indictment on our society that we have to sell alcohol to raise money. I think it says a lot about us as South Africans. We are essentially admitting to being an alcohol-loving nation. Seems we don't do anything unless booze is involved. And if that is true, it should not be so. We can't encourage that kind of thinking, that behavior or mindset. Let's look at alternatives, other options, other ways, positive nation building, community building ways of raising funds instead of alcohol. We can still allow for the letting of school halls without compromising on the alcoholic stance. So I will just leave it at that for now. I'm sure perhaps my colleagues want to respond, and I will also, if given another opportunity, respond.
Thank you very much, Apostle. There we go. We have got problems in South Africa. We are regarded as a nation that has got people who are abusing substances, alcoholics, and we are on top when it comes to gender-based violence. And in fact, with regard to criminality, we are regarded as this nation that has got a very high crime rate, and that is true. And now the questions are being asked that if we need to raise funds in schools, do we need to involve alcohol? and you talked about issues of morality. And recently, parents have been talking about, we have got this situation in South Africa where it seems as if we are just departing, we are just moving away from being moral to going deep down into moral decay. We have got quite a lot of youngsters in the streets, and I'm reading the comments that are coming from different people. And there are these questions like, can't we do fundraising without introducing alcohol? And there is this issue that the apostle raised with regard to enforcing the laws. We are unable to enforce the laws that are currently in place. Rarely will we succeed in regulating this introduction of alcohol during school events. And somebody is saying there are schools where there are events nearly every weekend. So are we saying that in those schools there will be alcohol if the school approves that, or the SGB says, yes, we can do it? Are we going to be having schools that are selling alcohol every weekend? I've seen an article where it was said that Kosas was going, like, it's trial time now in September in Limpopo. Can't we have the licensed liquor places closing early, at least to give learners time to go and study? Because they found that learners were not really studying, they were going drinking. And they said that these establishments that are now near schools should have not been allowed to operate from there because they are within school vicinity. Now, are we saying now that alcohol will be found in schools? And what do you do, like in schools, if there are children? Let's talk about maybe an example of a high school. I know that we are talking about, I don't know, Mr. Elijah, you will correct me here. Yours is a department that is dealing with, yes. Are you dealing with both primary school and high schools?
Yes.
All right. Now, with your over 18s during those events who are learners at schools, will they also be allowed to drink? Those are some of the questions that are coming through. I want to throw this back to you so that you address what you have heard coming from the previous speakers and also the comments that I'm reading to you right now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think in everything that we have said, especially regarding the recent comments, we have left out the parents. We have not asked what the role of the parent is, because the school governing bodies is actually the community component in the school community. So it is important that we understand that whatever is happening in the school, the law says the SGB needs to take care of that, first and foremost, because those are the people legally who look after the welfare of the school on a day-to-day basis. They create the policies and they make sure that learners' issues are attended to, and the general upkeep of the school is their responsibility. I'm saying this because I need to respond to this question that why are we saying alcohol must come to the school? We are saying that's what communities are calling for. It's not the department, it's what the communities are calling for. And we also need to understand that societies, communities evolve. The reason we are creating all this piece of legislation right now is because we want to raise awareness in terms of the issues, among other things, that are happening, the needs of communities that are there now. This is what people say at this point where we are now as a country. We believe that these provisions are going to help us to go forward in terms of the needs. The country has grown in population. The needs in terms of basic education have expanded. There's just demand for education services right across the board. And the resources, we know the economy is not doing well, are strained and are constrained. And now people are saying, if there are other avenues that we can utilize for us to be able to get additional funding that can help us, we believe these provisions can help us. It's not a free-for-all. As Dr. Cereseto put it, there are special conditions. If a particular community, say, through the school governing body, even just the general community, say, we don't want this in our school, it will happen like that. No one is forced. It's a provision. Use it, don't use it, it's up to you. But here's the other thing. We live in a democracy. You know, I listen to people every day saying, our constitution is the best in the world, is the best in the world. Here is the constitution giving people the right to determine what they want. What is wrong with that? All that we need to do as basic education is to make sure that it happens in terms of the law. You were talking about enforcing. You see, just because there are challenges in terms of enforcing does not mean don't create the law. You need to create it so that there's a framework governing the behavior of people. People need to know that if you drive at above 120, you are already breaking the law. So just because people are driving at 160 every day, you can't say, let's not have regulations on the road. It can't work like that. There has to be a law. We are a constitutional democracy where we are governed by laws. And not everyone will be happy, by the way, by any outcome that will be there in the law. It's a numbers game. And for me, the saddest thing is that every time the department publishes policies for public participation, the input very small. But this is the one that attracted the largest inputs. I was the person who personally went to receive inputs from people who brought truckloads of documents, who said, we are objecting to this. In the initial stage, there were 5,000 inputs received from different people and other organizations. They brought, in fact, there were 144 petitions with 195,000 names on it. That's how, you know, that's what happened when this issue was out there. So the people who now say
Sorry,
they were not aware.
Mr. Mhlanga, I don't want you to pass there without us understanding what you are saying. You are saying those 195,000 were in support or not in support?
I'm talking in general in terms of the response. When we are asking for people to respond to the issues that we put out in the public, the response is always very small. People miss out on the opportunity to influence the final version of whatever policy or law that is going to come out. In most cases, when we talk about this on radio, people will call the radio, and every time they call me, I say, I hear you, good point, but don't leave it there. If you leave it here on radio, if you leave it here on social media, that's where it ends. You need to write it in so that the team processing the comments can see what you have to say. When you do that, you are certain that your input will make it to the final version. But here's the other thing. When schools, and Dr. Cereseto will tell you, when schools call meetings for parents to come so that issues can be discussed that affect the school, the percentage is always very small. This year, we had school governing body elections. Many schools had 3 meetings because the first one did not correlate, parents were not there. The second one did not correlate, parents did not attend. The third one, the minority that's there end up having to elect whoever has raised their hand saying that they are available. And by the way, that did not just happen this year because we say no COVID. It's not just a COVID thing. Even in previous years, when it comes to the participation of parents in the issues that affect their children in schools, the participation is always very low. That's where we need to start. In general, when we invite people to say, what do you think about this? You find that the response is very low. So we also need to take that into account, that whatever the department gets to do, it is driven by people who would have, out of the blue, written to the department to say, we have been observing this. We feel as a department or as a minister, you need to look into it. Some even go all the way to Cape Town. They write to the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education to say, Portfolio Committee, we know you are parliamentarians. There's a matter that is concerning us. Why don't you look into it? The Portfolio Committee say, we will invite them to say, come, present. Let's see what you have to say. And then they state their issues there. So it is disingenuous to complain on social media and call radio stations and not follow the established processes of communication, so that the department gets to hear what it is that you have to say. So we also always need to take this into account, that the department is not operating in an island. It is responding to the issues that society is raising with it through formations like the governing body foundations and other school governing body association, the teacher unions, civil society. In some instances, you find some traditional leadership as well coming to us, but I'm yet to see the church really coming out in full force saying, we want to influence legislation, we want to influence policy. This is what we want to do, and we want to be with you all the way. I haven't seen it. So we need to start by taking action and making sure that we take charge of the affairs of education in general, but particularly those that affect the future of our children.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mhlanga. It is good that you are saying this, and it is on a Christian platform, a church platform. So many people, many church people right now are connected via their TVs, because this is being broadcast on TV. And be assured, it's going to be on many platforms. We are definitely going to put it on many TV stations where UBN is broadcasting. It's going to be on UBN, which is a 24 hours broadcasting station going everywhere. And also on your other platforms like your Tswane TV, How TV, 1KZN, and Soweto TV. These broadcasts will be there. Many people who are church-going people will get to see this. And that is why we are broadcasting, so that many people can wake up and not just find things happening in their country without them being involved, because it will be very good if every South African can learn to be a patriotic citizen who participates in whatever that concerns his life, his country, his nation. That will be so beautiful. But up until now, we have found that many people don't even understand what is going on, how these legislations are passed, how policies get to be formulated, and they don't know the things. And now we have embarked on this mission of educating everyone so that everyone becomes a participant. And that way, we will safely say that we have got this democracy and it's running well. So now with this one of how things are done, I'm happy that you are on the platform so that you can educate people that when you come up with this, when these policies are presented or when these bills are presented, what is it that people can do in order to say whatever that they believe should happen with regard to whatever that is being proposed. You are saying that the department doesn't just wake up and decide that here is what we are going to do. They act from what they are told by people. And yes, you are, as government, of course, you are mandated by people to lead them. And you hear what people say with regard to different issues. And it is true that from all the things that are proposed now by the Department of Basic Education, the one that is catching many people's attention is this one of alcohol. And I can see that really people are going crazy. They go like, you know what? You started by removing the Bible from school, prayer from school. Now you are introducing other things. What is next? Are you going to say because dacha is legal and some parents or some people are saying that we want it to be introduced as well in
but
this
that's
event?
not true.
The next time we are going to have dacha. We are hearing that from people who are commenting. Those are the comments that are coming through. But let me go to Dr. Cereseto. Let me give you another chance, Dr. Cereseto, to address this one of regulation, because as you were talking, I was asking myself that really we see what is happening in schools now. We have got these headlines where you see teachers drinking at school, some of them coming up with bottles on pictures inside the classroom, also drinking with children, school children, and even during events, misbehaving. So are we going to be able to regulate it, Dr. Cereseto?
Right. Well, you paint a grim picture there. And yes, those pictures do hit the media. We have 450,000 or so teachers in the country. And it's only the odd exception where that particular kind of conduct happens. And I think we must put that in the context. It is an exception rather than a normal rule. What we need to consider here is school management, school leadership, parent involvement. All of those factors would play a role. If we had parent involvement and they heard that a teacher brings alcohol to school, those parents should be at the principal's office demanding accountability from the principal for proper conduct in school. There are provisions, of course, as employees of the Provincial Education Department. A teacher has a code of ethics to abide by. We have the Employment of Educators Act, which specifies conduct that is misconduct and can lead to dismissal or other serious penalties. If we have communities involved in their school, they have to take action with improper conduct. So I think, the advocate was also concerned about having law and it not being monitored, not being implemented. That is quite true with all the laws in our country. In fact, I have personally said we're becoming lawless and we have laws in place and people disobey them without fear of punishment. We can't have that. But in schools, when you have these provisions that I understand divides people, and I understand not everybody wants alcohol in schools, and personally, I don't particularly like to have functions at school that serve alcohol, but we do live in a democracy, and that we are making provision for schools to do it legally, not to do it in an illegal way, and to do it in a controlled fashion. So I think the amendment is good because it allows for democratic participation. It allows people to take charge of their communities. So we do need people to take charge. We can't have them sitting on the sidelines and complaining, we have a drunk teacher at the school who's drinking alcohol with children. That cannot happen, and it must not happen. There are plenty of measures that are already available to rectify that. I do want to take up one question that was asked, and because I don't think it was answered in full by Elijah, is if you have these functions at school where alcohol is sold at a school activity in a restricted area under liquor license conditions and all the rest, will learners who are over 18 be allowed to attend those events? Well, that, as far as I'm concerned, is an important question to ask. My answer to schools and my advice that will go out to schools once this is law would be to say learners may not participate in the drinking of alcohol at their own school. They are maybe over 18, they are adults, they're entitled under the liquor law to drink. But in terms of the Education Act, they are still learners at that school until they finish grade 12. so they remain learners at that school, and learners will not be permitted in those venues. And I think it's really important that schools hold on to that. And it may not be specified in words in the Act, and that could be problematic. But schools must insist that no learner may enter the venue where liquor is being sold. I think that's really, really important. I also want to pick up, and I go back to parents' involvement. I want to pick up on the issue of drug and alcohol problems in our society. Absolutely true, and it's extremely regrettable. I don't think this particular amendment makes any difference to that situation, for better or for worse. The Western Cape has had this provision in their Western Cape Act for some years now, and it hasn't made the situation better or worse. The situation of drug and alcohol abuse is in our society. It's our children and it's our adults. Children spend more time in the community than they spend at school. So what they are learning is being learned in the community. We can shut down all alcohol sales in schools and not have this amendment. But that's actually not going to stop the children from becoming addicted to alcohol or drugs. Not having the amendment is just going to create problems for schools in other ways. So put the amendment in place, have it regulated. It's allowed to be monitored. It is an offense to do anything contrary to what's in the law. Apply the law. But let's work on other areas of how we can deal with children who are becoming addicted to drugs and alcohol, and at a younger and younger age. Just with pregnancy, also a major societal issue. The two could even be connected and are connected. Same with gender-based violence. All of those societal problems are another matter. It's nothing to do with this particular amendment. We need to deal with that. And yes, the school is a place for education. And yes, it is in the school curriculum. Abuse of alcohol, abuse of illegal substances is in the school curriculum. But it's the role modeling that they have in their homes and in their streets and in their suburbs and at the club down the road. That's what they're seeing. And it's way beyond the school to actually deal with all of it. They can deal with some of it, but not all of it. But this amendment really and truly does not contribute for better or worse to that particular problem. It's making life manageable for schools. It's making alcohol permissible under tight conditions for use. If the church holds a church service in the school hall and they take the hall every Sunday morning and they want to have communion, and they use wine for communion. Not all churches use wine, but some do. If they use wine for communion, it is legal. But if we don't have this amendment, it will be illegal. And that would be a problem probably for the churches to say, we want to use the hall, but we do have wine. Wine is in the Bible. Wine's in the Bible for better and worse as well. We've had water into wine at a wedding for celebration. And we've also had drunk people doing bad things in the Bible. So it's been there for centuries. It did exist. So I take the amendment. Let's apply it. Let the people who are supposed to monitor adherence to the law do the job. Let them come. If a school is selling alcohol and they don't have the liquor license, then they need to be taken and charged with whatever the offense is. They can't do it. It's an offense. Let them be charged. And people who see it being mishandled, let it be reported. Take action. I have no problem where this is the law and we will explain it to our members. Once it's gazetted, we will give them some advice on how to do it in a responsible fashion. The provinces, I'm sure, will issue instructions via the head of department. They will do it provincially as well. And we will support the responsible use of this amendment, not an abuse of it. I wish we didn't have to do fundraising at schools that involved alcohol. I agree with you. I wish we didn't have to. And schools do use all sorts of other means. They have fun runs and civvies days and, I don't know, auctions and other kinds of things. They do have them. But some schools have resorted to this. And I think some, as I hear from fellow guests here, have gone overboard, have in fact done it incorrectly and abused it. And that we don't want. And I think the amendment stops us, because you've got to have a person responsible for making sure it is not abused. That's in the law. It's part of the amendments. And I think the amendments are crafted pretty well to cover as much as could possibly be said to make people understand, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it properly.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cereseto. The thing is that, you know, South Africans are extremists. They go to extremes with everything. And the thing that we are in a democracy is understandable. But as we see here, the question like schools which are hiring out their venues every week, will they turn into taverns every week? Children are going to be exposed to liquor in schools, and maybe having to find some bottles when they come there. There are children who come from families where they don't actually witness people, seeing people who are drunk, for instance. Parents try to protect them, they never drink before them. And these children have been protected because they go to school, they don't have those role models who are role modeling drinking of liquor. So these children will start now being exposed to liquor drinking and the adults who are drunk when they attend school events. So there are many concerning issues that are coming up, and also coming to the issue that, okay, we are in this democracy, but with South Africa, it's like when the issue of drugs is being raised here, it's like the next thing that is going to happen maybe is to put poison and say that this poison is available for everybody to kill themselves. Whoever wants to kill themselves, let them go take it. Dr. Cereseto, that is not for you to answer anyway. I was just talking about this one that was raised before, that now there are schools every week, they've got fundraisings or they've got events. Like, I know that this is true because I lived near a school where there were events nearly every weekend. Now, are we going to be having such schools selling liquor every weekend? I'm just gonna expect you to answer that one before I just pass to the apostle.
You want me to answer that? No.
Yes.
You know, no, I don't. I think that should not be. Remember, the amendment says it's the school governing body, the principal, and the head of department. So the head of Department of Education in the province, those three parties have to give approval for these events. Now, the head of department will probably delegate that authority to the district director. The district director must have some sense of what is going on in all his or her schools. And I do not believe that the sale of alcohol can happen at every weekend at one particular school. Remember, the sale of alcohol requires a liquor license. Getting a liquor license costs a lot of money. You don't just get, you will lose all your fundraising income, by having to buy the liquor license. You will actually have to pay a lot, and you'll have to make a lot of sales to make up the cost. So it's not something that would be a regular event. And I'm sure when the district directors look at schools' plans, they will say, okay, now this is ridiculous. You can't be having alcohol fundraising events every weekend. That would be unreasonable. The provincial officials, education department officials, are going to have to be responsible. And, you know, if you're a community member and you're observing the school down the road having lots of activities, good. But if you're finding that they're having alcohol sold at all of these events, and it's more of an alcohol event than a real school event, then that is something that you would report to the education district and say, your district is out of control. This school is carrying on in a way that is unacceptable. And you would hand it to the education official to go and monitor what's going on, because the school had to have approval from the district. So there are plenty of checks and balances. And I think all the parties, so the school governing bodies plus the education department, must play their role in monitoring this and making sure it does not get out of control. It would be horrific to think that a school was having liquor fundraising events every weekend. That just does not seem reasonable to me. If it does happen, certainly any advice that we give our members would probably advise them that they would have one of those a year, because it's going to cost to have the event. They might have one a year. Some of the schools, I would say probably 80% of our schools wouldn't even be thinking of having those kinds. Only 20% of them would be thinking of this kind of an event. It's rare. Remember, the amendment deals with other forms of alcohol at schools. It's not only sale of you. It's the staff who may live in a staff house. The matron is under the current law wouldn't be able to ever drink anything for the 40 years that the matron is employed at the school, would never be able to drink in her own little residential place. Now that's fine if alcohol is a banned substance in our country, but alcohol is not a banned substance in our country. And that matron has a right to drink alcohol in a normal society, in a normal way, under the rules of the school, which says the matron better not get drunk and start walking the corridors of the hostel. That would be a problem. And the principal of the school has to take that into account. Look, and I've known stories about where things have gone wrong. We all know those stories. But we have provision that it is now possible and not illegal. That at the moment, as soon as this came in, without all of K, the amendment, section K, we would have people in big trouble. So, you know, I think it's making it reasonable. Just as I said, if the church needs to have wine as its communion drink rather than grape juice, you know, that's possible. If there's a wedding, the people can be served alcohol, no sale, but they could serve it to the guests. And again, somebody has to always be there to make sure it's not abused. That's in the act. It's in the amendment.
Thank you very much for emphasizing the issue of regulation. And let me go to the Apostle. Apostle, are we faced with the issue of permissible but not beneficial?
Definitely not beneficial. Let me start maybe by just addressing a few comments that Mhlanga made. Very valid comment about the necessity of law. And of course, as a lawyer, nobody would agree more with that assertion than myself. Do we need laws? Yes, we need laws. And we do have a law actually in this instance. Section 8A is the law, which currently says no person may bring liquor onto public school premises or have liquor in his or her possession or consume or sell liquor on public school premises. We are just saying that that law is sufficient and that law is relevant in the context of our South African context. So nobody is saying don't have laws. We're saying have them. And we are also saying have responsible laws. that will protect our children and make sure that we build a better South Africa. So that's just my response to that, to say we do have laws. Let's keep those laws that are beneficial and not those that are not beneficial. I do also want to agree with Ntate Mhlanga's submission concerning the process, the legislative process. And Ntate Mhlanga, I fully agree with you regarding consultation. The public participation is minimal, it's zero. It is something that I myself has said, and I'm not going to let the church off on this one, because I have been, Mama Kubo, I have been for the last 20 years telling the church that the church cannot leave itself out of the consultation process and then cry foul afterwards. We have to be a part of the process. And I agree with you, Ntate Mhlanga, because we're not here to exonerate ourselves for things that we've not done. The church plays a fundamental role in this process. And I've heard even our president, say, where's the church? And so I do want to say this to the church. We cannot comment after the fact, church. When there's a process, we must be there as the body of Christ. We must be there. And I'm gladly, people like Mama Mukuba, and we have been having legislative imbizos with Bishop Makubo to educate the public. So in the last few submissions, hate speech, we were able to mobilize people. The church made submissions on hate speech bill. The church made over 100,000 submissions in 2 days on the Pepuda bill, promotion of equality. We rallied because now we're getting the picture that we are a part of the citizenry of South Africa. So that one I will not let the church, sit back, and we have to own where we ourselves have missed it. So to the church, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, we have to get involved, and we have to be alert and vigilant for the publication of the bills when they're gazetted. And when we respond to you, when we do radio interviews and explain on our monthly radio shows the laws, you must respond, not after the fact, but during the fact. And to parents, we've heard that parents are not being vocal. In the student governing body, you're not attending the meetings. So let me address parents. Let me address the body of Christ as well. Why are we not in the student governing body? Why are we not being vocal? Why are we not having a voice? Because that's where the power lies. So I hope the church is being motivated to be a voice, so that we are not only a voice on social media, more Facebook, that we become a voice, really, that now we voice our concerns and opinions on platforms that matter, that are relevant, because our Facebook comments cannot be taken to Parliament. So it's good to comment on Facebook, but they will not go to Parliament. So I do understand that, I totally agree with you on that one. And church, we're not going to have our voices heard. The democratic process doesn't take into account Facebook comments and social media comments. It takes into account proper legislative processes. So let's get involved in that. I do agree with that. The next thing I just want to comment on, the aspect of teachers, and how are we going to manage the issue of teachers of misconduct and teachers who get inebriated, even parents who get inebriated, which Pastor Mukubo raised, and Dr. Anthea also addressed it. And in her address, she referred to codes of ethics and other regulations that were to control the behavior of teachers. I still want to say, Dr. Anthea, I still have a concern. Like I've said, regulations exist, it doesn't mean that they work. If those regulations and codes of ethics were working, we wouldn't have the number of girls who are impregnated by male teachers. The number of young girls who we know it's a problem. They're not impregnated by fellow students. They're impregnated by misbehaving teachers. So, and they are not in the minority. There are many of them. So clearly the code of ethics is not working. So we need to look at that. We cannot say that just because we have policies in place, there's protection. There is not protection. We need to protect the many young girls who are being bullied by male teachers, who are trading school marks for sex. The code of ethics is not working because there are young girls there who are being impregnated by male teachers. Clearly, there is an error and there's a problem. So we cannot say we're relying on code of ethics that are not working. So I wanted to throw that out there as well. The aspect of I think at the end of the day, when we look at this, we have to weigh interests. The interest of money, fundraising versus the interest of protecting our children. That's what it boils down to. And if I was preaching, because I'm also a pastor, I would give you a scripture from the Bible. And the scripture from the Bible says, the love of money is the root of evil. You cannot serve Mammon and you cannot serve God at the same time. It is an anomaly to be able to serve. So we cannot look after our children's interests and also want to look for money and Mammon in an unrighteous way. The crux of it, it boils down to that. Do we want to protect our children? Make sure there's absolutely no access. Make sure that the departmental motto of zero tolerance really becomes zero tolerance and not some tolerance, because up till now it has been zero tolerance. We salute that approach. Zero tolerance. We say big up to the department for that zero tolerance. And we're saying maintain that zero tolerance. And, you know, I've listened to also Dr. Anthea talk about that the proposed changes and the social ills of society. The issues that we face have to do with social ills, and they have nothing to do with the amendment. I think it's premature for us to say they have nothing to do with the amendment. The amendment has not been tested yet. We don't know the effects really of the amendment. We don't know. But what we do know is that we already have a problem. We already have a problem. So opening access is definitely not going to improve the problem. It can only get worse. Once you open access, it can only get worse. So there's already a problem, and opening access can only increase it. I think it's just logical to think that way. So I think that, you know, these are the bottom line things that we need to consider. Dr. Anthea made a very potent and powerful statement to say it would be horrific to have liquor fundraising events every week. Just quoting what she said, it would be horrific to think of having fundraising events every week. I want to take it a step further and close out by saying it would be horrific to have fundraising event even 1 week. So every week may be horrific. I say even 1 week is horrific.
Thank you so much, Apostle. Even 1 week will be horrific. Yes, of course, we see that many people are sending in their comments. I'm just going to open the lines and hear from those who want to call in. And Mr. Mhlanga, it will be great to teach the church people on how to participate. We need active participation, and that will really help quite a lot, because right now, we keep on asking ourselves questions. How did we get here? How did we land here? It is very worrying that we have got things that are happening which we don't even know how they came about. So the church is no longer asleep, the church is awake, and we promise you, Mr. Mhlanga, we will be participating. Not just participating, but actively so. All right, let's hear from the caller on the line. Hello. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
I'm can I take this opportunity and to leave your channel as well?
Thank you.
My name is Anthea. my question goes to Mr. Mhlanga because I overheard saying, I think there's more, the center of this country is well into fundraising. And what makes us say, why can't we do fundraising other than both the alcohol activity? And I've had any grandmother, not so long, I was during our time at school, we were collecting these boxes of chocolate cakes, the tubes of seaweed, all those things for waste funds at school. So what is the parents or the teachers of the school that can they think out of the box and approach other parents that will need assistance from the children to go and gather those such things like the box of bubble tea, the tea that they can use for purposes. And again, as a mother, I also have children that go to school. Wouldn't that fundraising activities to meet other requirements of the school? We as parents, we do not say we cannot pay for our children. If our children go to school, then we are expected to teachers give us letters to say, give us 100 rand for such and such activity. We do pay those 100 rand. We have to see them call kids, whatever they call. Kids can go to school wearing their clothes, not wearing school uniform. They can put up curriculum for that time. So those are many ways, because like many ways that the government and the school bodies and the school in general will bring instead of saying alcohol. Because for me, this thing, as I was discussing one day, most of the capacity and load of alcohol, and drugs and everything. But I see the school where the principality or the teachers get events, the special occasion events, and the alcohol goes to the school. What will happen after hours or whatever? What will happen if now the school teacher is there and now he's drinking alcohol? And so from Kupe, I think you are listening from other comments to say, this is in a high school and children who are over 80 and they are trying to see that school premises. Now we make it there, right? And there are teachers or principals of the very same school who are in those students and they will be all of them because the traditional is allowed. And the next thing is the teacher goes and speaks to the child. The child is over 80, is very school, the teacher is there, is very school. Are we now not talking of trust to the teachers to say, you may go, then if you don't go for the next time and on you, it's not going to be as success now. So that it's the teachers of foreign school, yes, with the child. So there are a lot of things that I believe that we need to think of before we can only think of the fundraising. There are many ways. We can even we can think of a lot of things. We can make a lot of things at school. When our children are teachable parents, we can go to the school and give advices or what they say, the thing for ways to make the use of money for the school other than this.
Memwiponi, I hear you that you are saying that there are many ways of doing fundraising. Why use alcohol, which can be destructive? And you are saying that parents can come up with suggestion on what to be done. But Mr. Mhlanga is saying that parents are not really participating. They are refusing to get involved with matters concerning their children's future. I heard him saying that, but we have heard you, and I know that our panelists have noted that, and they will respond to what you have said. Thank you so much for participating.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I'm seeing Takani says we cannot argue for alcohol sales on school premises. Based on secondary activities like weddings and churches at school. We must focus on the primary function of schools, which is educating children. Weddings and churches weddings and churches must play by school rules if they want to utilize school facilities. Hello, you are through to UBN.
How are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
My name is Olga. I'm calling from Cape Town in the Western Cape, and greetings to your panelists. And thank you so much for providing us this opportunity to voice us for our concerns on behalf of our children. I've got 3 questions here, Pastor. Number one is what Dr. Cereseto has mentioned in her addressing to say the people should be controlled on how to dress at schools like in those events. Meaning, the way I understood it, the regulations of the laws that are there will be made to control the people that are drinking alcohol on those days. My question to Dr. Cereseto, in many times, as people, when they drink, they lose control. They tend to fight, some they tend to sleep around, some they tend to pee everywhere, wherever that they can go. So I just want to ask, as part of the STD, how will the STD, together with the educators, the principals, will that be controlled? And the reason why I'm asking this question, Pastor, is because I'm just saying that that's the school, which is the primary, the high school, and also the preschool. So now, if those events are happening at the primary and also at the high school or even at the preschool, and those people, they drink, they sleep around on the school ground, they throw the bottles all over, they pee all over. Really, my house will be smelly on that particular weekend. So now I want to ask her, how do you control? Maybe through her experience, because I can see that she's an elderly person. How do you control the people that are drunk? That is the question to Dr. Cereseto. Number 2, I heard Mr. Mhlanga say the community, the way consulted. I'm aware that this issue of alcohol, state of alcohol, is started with us here in the Western Cape. So I want to ask her from the department, how many communities in which area? Because my understanding is that me as the author from Western Cape, I'm coming from the Christian community. I've never seen the Department of Education in to say now we want to consult with regard to this law. The last one is that the assistance from Advocate Kupe. Advocate, there is an article on the internet. It is a very long article on public page 19. It's talking about the 1,000 foot buffer between the area of the school or the park and the library. And that buffer has to be 1,000 feet. So after such a grand system, is that a law or is that something that is being utilized? And if it's the law, why do we then disregard it and by ignoring that 1,000 foot buffer and bringing the alcohol inside the school? Thank you so much, Pastor. I'll stay on the line. I'll wait for my response.
Okay, thank you very much, Olga, from the Western Cape. Our panelists have noted your concern, and I'm going to give them a chance to respond to that. People who are drunk tend to lose control. How are we going to control that in the school premises? That is one of the questions that Olga is asking, because when people are drunk, they do quite a lot of things. And some are saying that these days, teachers are getting stabbed to death in the school premises. So now when we are adding alcohol, how are we going to deal with this? Is this feasible Is this going to be easy to control, or are we getting ourselves into trouble? Are we getting our children into trouble here? And Victor says, it's like certain communities are saying, let us kill our school children by giving them poison at schools. If certain communities say that, let us kill our children by giving them poison, will the Department of Education authorize that? And I see Criselda is saying that government must also seek advices from servants of God. Alcohol will cause a lot of damage to our children. There we go. Those are some of the things that people are raising on different platforms here, on Facebook, on WhatsApp. So let us hear your response, Mr. Mhlanga. I saw you looking down. I thought maybe you might be reading some comments on YouTube or Facebook. Did you get to check some of those? Because I cannot read all of them.
Yeah, thanks so much,
okay,
Pastor.
Okay. Oh, yeah. If you were checking some of those, which means that you are going to be able to respond to some, even those that I didn't even read for you. Here, Mr. Soka says that the monitoring aspect will fail. As we know, in our country, there is a bad record with regards to monitoring anything. All it takes is one big event that will get out of control, leave many young lives destroyed, and the damage control will be too much to can handle. That is from Salbi Soka. I'm gonna give you the chance to respond, Mr. Mhlanga. And as you respond, can I also ask you to educate our viewers? Can I also ask you to do some education and educate our viewers on how they can participate in these processes that you are talking about? Because some people, they are not really complaining on social media. I'm gonna talk on their behalf that some of them are not complaining on social media because they know what to do. They are complaining because they just don't know how to participate. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to get a hold of this information where they can be able to influence the processes that are unfolding in our country or in our education system. That is why you're going to hear them complaining that, you know what, you have introduced a curriculum that is not helping our children. You have introduced the thing where you have taken out the Bible from school, prayer from school, and now our children are into Satanism. They are killing each other. They are uncontrollable. You have introduced the thing of removing discipline from school. That is how they put it. You have removed discipline from school, and now our children are disrespecting the teachers, and many of them are dropping out of school, and many of them are ending up taking Nyau boys in the street. So there is a lot of finger pointing that is true. But I know that for many of them is lack of knowledge. So these people have to be educated so that they understand how to participate. So in your responses to whatever issues that were raised, please also include that education. Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Pastor. Maybe that's where we need to start. You know, it starts at school level. As a parent, caregiver, guardian, do you, out of the blue, go to a school to ask your teachers how your child is doing? They don't need to invite you. Do you go out of the blue, out of your own will, and say, I want to find out from the school principal how the school is doing generally, because I'm a concerned member of the public, 1, 2, because I'm a parent of a child who comes to the school. And 3, do you attend all the meetings at the school? Because when you go to the SGB meetings, the SGBs always brief you about the issues that are taking place in the sector. Dr. Cereseto, I don't know how many times I've met her this year. because we meet the associations all the time, and the minister briefs them on specific issues that are affecting the sector. By the way, I'm with her in a WhatsApp group, which I've created for the leaders of all the associations of school governing bodies, so that they stay informed about the issues that are taking place on an hourly basis in the basic education sector. That means she knows the issues that are emerging in the basic education sector, which means therefore that if she were, or members of the school governing body foundation were to invite parents to the schools, they are likely to be briefed about issues that are emerging in the basic education sector. If there are issues that they don't understand, they always ask me. They know I respond very quickly and I give them whatever that they ask for, because they are important conveyors of information from the department to the parents via the SGBs. So participation there is critical. By the way, you don't necessarily need to have a child in the school for you to go to the school to find out what's happening. In every case, you see, just now, we are in December now, schools are closed. When we reopen in January, I can tell you this now, that I will be issuing a statement, and I will be telling you about the number of schools that would have been vandalized during the holidays while members of the community are watching. And there will not be a single case opened with the police to say, we saw this person coming to the school, cause damage, please deal with them. And the people who vandalize the schools are our own children, our brothers, our uncles, our cousins, but no one wants to see them held accountable in terms of the law. That's where the first problem starts. Yet, we want to use the school for weddings, for meetings, for all sorts of events that we have. So, as a community, we have a responsibility to protect the school and look after it. But it doesn't start with you being an eyewitness. It starts with you knowing what is taking place inside the school. That's that part. Now, let's come to this one. The law is not saying schools are forced to sell alcohol. She's correct. Alcohol is not needed. And we are saying, where the parents say we don't want this, it won't happen. No one will force you. In other schools that we have seen, by the way, the parents themselves have said, alongside the school governing body, we are going to create a parents association. They call these PAs. And they have their own separate meetings. And in these meetings, they help the school to come up with creative ways of raising funds for the schools. And it works perfectly well. In those cases, they don't need alcohol. Sometimes they do. But when they do, they make sure that children are not allowed, whether 18 years or whatever. It's for adults, and they select who must come there, because they know in that fundraising event, they are selecting people who have money, people who run companies, where it's going to be an adult event where people are going to pledge monies to support the school. And we have seen, one school just opened its bridge, which crosses a major highway here in Kensington, which they raised through using different tactics of getting money in. So those are some of the things that happen. So we mustn't point fingers as though the department is imposing this. The department is not imposing. It says where the community agrees that this should happen, it should happen. And the issue of control, yes, the SGB together with the parents, they need to work together and make sure that this thing happens. In terms of the process, this one, I think I said this in the beginning, and I realized that some of our viewers or listeners have missed what I said in the beginning. I said this particular change has been taking place from 2013. It is probably the longest amendment or public participation process that has taken place in my experience, where for about 8 years we are working on one thing, back and forth. We have received, as indicated earlier, over 5,000 comments from people from all provinces. The thing is that when these amendments were made, I don't know how many times I did interviews on radio stations, issued statements, went on social media, went on television. The problem is that if something does not concern you at that time, you don't listen until that which concerns you comes. And you say, but this thing, I didn't know. How come? Where did you go? And we've been to your community, but because at that particular time, something else caught your attention, not this issue. You missed it. So it doesn't mean that the fact that you missed us, we didn't come. We were there, you didn't listen. Maybe at that time you didn't even have a school-going child. And at that time, that issue was not relevant to you. Now you have a family, you have children that go to school. Now you're paying attention to everything that is concerning children. So it's that type of conversation that we need to have. We have evidence. You know, our website, which we check, by the way, every day. In the first 3 months of this year, we had 20 million views of people going onto our website, and we know where they go. They are looking for policy documents, which means there's a lot of people who go to their website to search for documents that will inform them so that they know what is taking place in the basic education sector. So we are there, we are available. My number is all over the place. We are always on social media responding to people's questions. A lot of people, in fact, the church is probably the most organized group of people who meet regularly, even under COVID conditions. There's these virtual meetings. Why don't we use the opportunities that we have there to say, guys, here's this law that is there. Let's get together. Here is a form, write your comment and submit it. I even went to one big church and I suggested that, why don't you start a policy monitoring desk in the church so that you know what is happening generally across the country and you make input on a regular basis. So the church also has a role to play in terms of educating people on what is taking place in the country as a whole. So it's not just for the government. We receive inputs from everyone, and we have to consider these inputs. And we work on the basis of what we are given, and we go through. So that comment from people of saying, we didn't know, that doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work anymore because we are all over the place. We also have our own channel, DBE TV channel on OpenView 122. It's there, we're expanding, we're everywhere trying to reach people. And we don't have the capacity, by the way, as DBE, as the policy-making platform, to be everywhere. We work through structures. We work through provinces. We have 9 provinces. We have 75 districts. We have 889 circuit offices across the country. We've got 430,000 teachers who are there representing your children, teaching your children. We've got 235,000 people involved in school governing bodies. All those people are responsible for conveying messages to communities. You need to use those platforms to come through. And all of these are located in 25,000 schools. So we're literally in every street. So it can't be that you say you didn't know something. It is because perhaps you are not taking initiative yourself to come. The minister has been holding regular monthly media briefings where she talks and touches on all these things. But you still come and say, we don't know. I don't think it's a good enough reason to say, I didn't know this. For something that took 7 years, it can't be. Because this thing, I know it has been to Parliament many times. The school governing bodies have raised so many times. So we also need to be listening. What is it that is happening? When the minister is there, what is she talking about? We need to listen, not just look at her. So we really need to pay attention and play a role in making sure that we bring the change that we want to see, not just come, complain, and go. And I think the advocate was correct. We also need to be active participants and shape these pieces of legislation. Because what happens is that, then I've told some people that if we don't take action, the minority will always dictate to the majority. And you'll say the department didn't talk to you, when in fact it spoke to everyone, but some people are listening actively than others.
Is that not the situation with what is happening in our country right now? That it seems like the minority are ruling and decisions are taken by the minority, and they are too vocal and they are participating more than the majority. And that is why we are now taking this initiative to educate everyone so that people know what to do. Because as I've said before, as you say that some people, maybe it is a matter of them not having taken this into consideration when it was said then, because you are saying that it took about eight to 9 years?
Yes, from 2013.
But there are many people who don't know about it. That is why I said, okay, just take this time and educate those people who do not know. I know that even the apostle will do it. Apostle, maybe I can just interrupt Mr. Mhlanga and hand over to you. Just educate the church people, the viewers, whoever is on the platform right now, on whatever platform that they're in. Just tell them how they can participate in this, or are we saying that this one is closed?
That is something for Mr. Mhlanga. Now, as far as I know, the bill has already been circulated for comment, for public comment. So in terms of the, and Ntate Mhlanga will actually confirm that. But in terms of the process, of course, there's a process where how it comes up, and there are committees that are assigned to draft the bills. And then by the time it reaches public comment, it's gazetted and the public is given a particular time to make comment. And then there's a close, there's a deadline that must be met, and it goes back and there's a publication of that. So I think the Department of Basic Education is the one to just confirm that aspect.
Okay. Mhlanga,
Yeah.
that is the question that is coming up, that is this one final now, or are people still able to do something about it?
Well, it has been back and forth for about 6-7 years now. Well, we went out in 2017 to ask for comment, and each time we thought we made progress, people requested for meetings. It went to NetLeg. It literally been to labor, business, and all sorts of stakeholders. So now it's gone to Parliament for Parliament to consider. If Parliament passes it, then they send it off to the President. If the President signs it, then it becomes law, which means we have gone past the windows for public participation.
Oh, okay. It's now up to Parliament.
Yes.
Yeah. And just to say again, maybe let me use this opportunity again, Muruti, just to emphasize the importance of the church. Now, South Africa, I know the Constitution in terms of faiths and recognition, but the reality on the ground is South Africa, the body of Christ, we have about an 80% representation. So what I keep telling people, there's no point in commenting after the fact, because to repeal legislation takes years. It's a process. So you have to be very timeous at the intervention. There's no point in having been given an opportunity to comment and we ignore that opportunity. And then the law has been passed. It's at a stage where it's being passed. To undo it is another lengthy process. It's another 6-7 years perhaps. And so I want to use this opportunity again to say to Bazalwane, Aritsu saying, with the democracy that we're speaking about, majority rule by the people for the people. So let us be alert, let us be vigilant. There are many platforms now where we are educating people on legislative processes. I'm on Radio Pulpit every month, once a month, explaining every major bill. I'm on Legislative Imbizo every month, explaining. We have about 300 Christian leaders. Pastor Mkubo is doing her bit as well. educating people there. So please, let's be alert, let's be vigilant, because the timing is very key. It's good that we're saying something now, but it's late. It's late. So you know, now we're really looking at a piece of legislation, unfortunately, that unless by some divine miracle may be passed. And that means now we have to work towards repealing the law. And repealing of legislation is a very lengthy process. So I hope we will take lessons learned from this. Lessons learned. And one of the things I want to ask, the one thing we can do as the body of Christ is to go out there and be on those student governing bodies, because that's where you'll have a platform to have a voice, instead of just leaving things and white seeking TV and we're watching reality shows. Let's go out there and be on those SGBs and be in the places where we can have a voice. And then we can formulate those policies like Dr. Anthea is talking about, that, you know, you at least, even if the law says this, you still have the power, because you're sitting on this platform, to say what you can accept and what you do not accept. You can still say within your association, within your school governing body, that we do not think this is right for us because of our situation, because of our environment. So church, I'm saying, go out there, go and form a strategy to say, we're going to be an influence. We're going to attend these meetings. Dr. Mhlanga has invited you. Dr. Anthea has invited you. Attend them. Make sure your voices are heard. You don't have to have a child there. You don't even have to have a child there. Make sure you're there. Make sure that you're part of drafting the policies and seeing how that thing rolls out. If it comes to a point where this piece of legislation is passed, then you have to move into Plan B and make sure that you sit in those positions, on those platforms, which are deciding platforms on how this will be rolled out. And you have the power to still block it, to still say, we don't want it. That's what needs to be done now.
Thank you very much, Apostle. That is good teaching to the church, that the time to just sit and not be active is over. We cannot afford to be passive anymore, because otherwise we won't have a country to talk about. Things are getting very, very bad, and we can see that things are just getting from bad to worse in our country. That is something that we cannot really afford to ignore or not to talk about, because it is true. Things are really, really out of hand. So for things to change in our country, for us to can shape things, and we end up getting or having godly laws passed in our country, it will really need our participation. But as you are talking, Mr. Mhlanga, I'm thinking, who are the people in Parliament who decide upon this? Are these people the very same people that are sent by people to represent them in Parliament?
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The parliamentarians are people who are voted in by the people themselves.
By the people.
Exactly. So whatever happens,
receiving their mandate from the people.
Absolutely. So the assumption is that they are reflecting whatever they pass. They are reflecting the feelings of their people. Remember, all MPs have what we call constituency offices, where they go on a regular basis to touch base with the ordinary people on the ground, find out what issues are troubling them, what they would like Parliament to attend to. So that's where they make notes and bring these issues to us. When we meet with the portfolio committee on a regular basis, and they tell us where they have been, what they've been told, what they must investigate, and then they question us about those things, and then we respond. That gives us a sense that they are indeed talking to people. So what they agreed to in Parliament, where they all gather there, it is assumed generally in a democracy that it is the feeling and the will of the people who put them in the positions that they occupy.
I'm sure with this one, looking at what people are saying on different platforms, not just on this platform, I'm sure that there is going to be a lot that is still said about it, because people are concerned about the future of their children. To tell you the truth, Mr. Mhlanga, our children, we have been talking about child mothers. In the past days, we had a program here on child mothers. It is very, very worrying what is happening with our children in South Africa. And we wonder, of course, and I see there is the concern of each and every parent, of most parents, to the extent that some parents are writing that it is like those who are now in government, their children do not go to these schools and they don't care what happens there. That is what people think. That is what they believe. That they don't care about what is happening in schools anymore. But today, you have said it straight that let everyone be a participant. So I'm sure that there is going to be quite a lot that is coming from the people who have sent people to parliament to say that, but with alcohol in our schools, getting introduced in events is going to be a problem. Given the uproar that I'm seeing, I don't think that our parliamentarians will just have an easy one on this one, because most people right now are crying out to say, hey, Batu, how did we get here? We are dealing with a pass rate that is like lower to 30. I mean, to an outside person who's watching this, it's like, hey, our children are getting destroyed here. So I'm going to give all of you a chance to do your final remarks right now. Just summarize and give your final remarks before you can leave the program, all of you. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Cereseto. Let us hear your final remarks or your final comments. Let me put it that way.
Thank you. So, yes, the formal process of passing the bill and it becoming act is on track. So it's not the end of the road for parents. And I think this is important. And it's really a community issue. And I strongly say, if you and your community do not want alcohol at fundraising events or on the premises of your schools, the community, that is the parents of the children, caregivers of the children at the school, must make that known to the school. They don't have to be on the school governing body even. They need to make that known to the school governing body, to the principal of the school. We do not want this. The voice of the people in the community around the school is powerful. So parents, caregivers still have a role to play. It's not all past and gone. You don't want it in your school. You cannot trust the organizers. You cannot trust the people who will go to the functions to behave properly. It's not safe in our community. We do not want it. It is still possible for communities to reject it in their communities. And they should do so, because if they cannot be sure that it will be a safe event, it should not happen. And I don't support any event where we have drunk adults anywhere near children or learners at the school. I would be dead against anything where the two would meet. When such activities are happening, the children must not be anywhere near. And we need to understand that this is not a mixing of children and alcohol. They are to be separated. I think we do need to use the powers of the community to be the police force, to be the monitors of the regulations that are there, to be the monitors of teacher conduct that is bad. The codes are there, and they are there to punish, if you like, to issue the sanctions for the misconduct. But if it's not brought to the attention of the people who can act by community members, then people get away with it. So it's important when you see wrongdoing, when the conduct of a person is wrong, to take the necessary action. If you don't know what the appropriate action is to take, contact the Department of Basic Education, contact the Provincial Education Department. I know this wrongdoing is happening. What do I do about it? And you report it to the right authorities, whether it's the South African Council for Educators or whether it's the Provincial Education Department. We do need the people in our schools and around our schools to help monitor, to help police. I don't like the word police, but help make sure that our good laws are actually implemented and have the power that they ought to have. I do believe we have got the tools to make things right, but we do need people to participate in the structures, in the community to bring that about. And I certainly am not a person that is wanting to promote drunken schools. I would hate anything like that to be possible. It's just that we have not fought against this particular amendment because we see that it offers opportunities that, if handled properly in a responsible way, could serve a purpose. It's not necessarily the best way of going about it, but it does enable things to happen lawfully. Whereas before there was uncertainty and probably unlawful activity happening. So we're trying to put it in a lawful framework, but we can use the community to help us monitor it and restrain it and keep it in good order. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cereseto. That is highly appreciated. You are saying that not all is lost. The communities can still monitor what is going on. They can still have a say in what happens in their schools. So it calls each and every person to stand up and say something about this. So I'm coming to you, Mr. Mhlanga. Here we are faced with a lot of problems in our country. And we have children who are not so controllable. Do you think that this is good, beneficial for our learners, that they get exposed to parents or adults who are drunk? And please do your concluding comments as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I think three things that I want to say. The first one is the issue of the Bible in school. The department does not remove the Bible in school. If you have time, I can take you to many schools where they read the Bible and preach in the morning at assembly before they go to the class. And those schools are doing well.
You know what, Mr. Mhlanga, if you don't mind, I would want to take you up on that one, that maybe somewhere next year, I call you so that you come and explain to the parents with regard to that one, because everybody, I've been saying this, that isn't it that people are misunderstanding what the department said? So some of the things, people just want to be educated on exactly what the regulation, the rules and regulations are, what the laws are, because sometimes they say what the department didn't say. So maybe next year, we can get some time where we deal with this one of the Bible, the school. Thank you very much for even pointing that out.
Yeah, I'll come for that one.
Sorry, you can go on.
Yeah, thank you. I'll come for that one, and I'll also come for the other issue that I'll mention later. So what I'm saying is that there are schools that do Bible reading and they preach every day. And there's one particular school that I'm going to mention because I like what is happening there. It's called Raymond Mhlanga High School. It's there in Cereseto on the West Rand. There, the community has taken charge of what is taking place in that school. They read the Bible and there's discipline in that school. The school does 100% matric all the time because the community has determined what they believe is good for them. And the children there understand that in this school, discipline is the key. And before we say anything, before any teacher will teach you, you get a verse into your mind. By the time you start listening to a teacher, the framework has already been created within which you are going to operate. So that's what they do. So the issue of people saying the Bible has been removed from school is not true at all. You just need to take charge of the school as a community, as a parent, as an SGP. That was the first thing. The second issue is this one of 30%. I heard you, Pastor, say 30% is a pass. 30% is not a pass at all. We need to come back and do a full show on that one so I can take you through the pass requirements, because there's a misunderstanding. If you can go to our website, in 2013, I did a whole explanatory piece on our website. It's still there. It will explain to you what is taking place. In fact, when you and I were in school, the sub-minimum was 25%. It was not where we are now. So there have been changes there. It was what was a conversion to lower grade. But when in 2008, the National Senior Certificate came into force, the higher grade and standard grade, all of those things fell away, and we started using this bachelor thing. And then the pass requirements changed there. So if your child were to get 30% right across, they failed. In fact, this day, today, as I was driving from the Free State, I received a message which I can share with you from a parent whose child got 30s and failed, because 30% is not a pass mark. It's only under certain conditions. The pass requirements are not the same. They're going to descending order from 50, 40, 30. So it's not one standard one for all the subjects, but we'll come back and deal with that one another time. But what I want to say is that we need to research. We need to ask questions. I'm available. Ask me questions. Because some of the questions and some of the things that some of the people that are asking and commenting on social media, they make me feel very sad, because it shows that people don't really know what's happening. In some of the comments, even when it comes to the comprehensive sexuality education, you can see that people have not read. People don't know what the education department is teaching their own children, because they've never opened those workbooks. Those workbooks were designed for children to take them home. But when children come home with these books, the parents don't read. That's why they come up with things that they found on Google and say, these are the things that you're teaching their children. It's not true. I'm waiting for Christians to organize a march where they are going to say, enough is enough with learner or teen pregnancies. I have not seen a single march around that. Yet, year in, year out, we've got 30,000, 40,000 young girls, some of them between 10 and 14 years old, who fall pregnant. The church has never gone to open a case that I'm aware of for a single child who has a case for statutory rape, to say, as a church, we are representing this child because she's vulnerable. I have not heard of any. Every time when we release these stats, I watch and expect that some churches will issue me the statements condemning this social scourge. It doesn't happen. Why is it that we are not attending to that one? Child protection is everyone's business, and we cannot be selective about it. Let's look at our children right across the board. We can't be up and down about this matter of alcohol when these children are raped by adults who give them sweets and cash. When we want to help as education department, we are told that the families have resolved the matter. The matter is now over. This person has paid damages, and now the child can continue. It can't be. We are saying the children need to be protected. And now, in this one of the amendments, the policy on the management of teen pregnancy, by the way, which was gazetted only last week, it says the perpetrators, if you are an educator, will deal with you. We must suspend you immediately, take you to disciplinary processes, and fire you. There's a life ban for sexual assault cases. Then, if it's a learner, that learner will be brought to the school. The parent must come so that they can account on behalf of the child, so that the one who has been impregnated must be supported. Everyone must know what has taken place and play their role. But if you are an adult not involved in the basic education sector, we are still saying in the policy that there has to be a judicial inquiry to make you to be held to account as well, because you have impregnated a child and you can't just run away. So we are saying the perpetrators, the predators who prey on these kids must be dealt with. That's what we are saying. And once again, I'm yet to see outrage coming from Christians to say, what's happening to our children? Enough is enough. And when we came with this comprehensive sexuality education, they said, no, it's our right as parents to talk to our children about sex and sexuality. You have no right to talk. But the evidence is there that they're already exposed and nothing has been said. I mean, I don't understand that every year we're shocked, this many number of children who have fallen pregnant and after 2 weeks dies down until next year same time. It cannot be. We need to be consistent because I'm saying this again, child protection is everyone's business. And we need to do it. If you are that active, then you also have the opportunity to influence the legislation that governs all these things. So I think we really need to come back. It looks like there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, but we are available, we'll be here, we'll come and provide all the necessary information. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mhlanga. We are going to organize that because we are concerned about the future of this country and this issue of our curriculum, the pass mark. There is a lot of misunderstanding, of course. Is our education the worst of them all, as most people seem to be saying, that we have got an education system that is not really equipping our children. So we need to debate about that. We need to talk about that. And where changes are needed, changes have to be made. And I must say that as a government, people who are governing, who are entrusted with the future of our children, we also expect you to do what is good for our children and protect the future of our country. Thank you. Let me pass to Apostle Pearl.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Muruti. And thank you to my co-panelists, Dr. Mhlanga, Dr. Anthea, for your comments. I'm just going to summarize a few things that have already been said, that I already said, reiterating the fact that we do have a law already that is governing the sale of alcohol, Section 8A of the South African Schools Act. And the law for me is the best law that South Africa can have, bearing in mind the challenges that we face regarding alcoholism in our nation as a whole, regarding alcoholism at schools as a whole, alcoholism amongst learners, alcoholism amongst teachers who use alcohol to take advantage of their students. I believe, and we believe as the body of Christ, and as South Africans in general, as the public, that law, Section 8A, is sufficient as it stands. And so we need to do everything we can in our power to try, and if this law is passed and amended to allow for sale of alcohol, we need to see in the practical terms, practically, how can we get involved to ensure against it being rolled out practically. So that's what we need to work on. So first prize for me would have been retention of Section 8A of the South African Schools Act. First prize for me and for this nation would have been for us to raise funds in an alternative way without resorting to alcohol, as if our lives revolve around alcohol. Are we alcoholic South Africans? Certainly we cannot be defined by alcohol. So first prize would be to look for other alternatives. Do sponsored walks, do auction, sell old clothes, do raffle tickets. There's so many other options. Do dance competitions, whatever it is. Do other things that does not make us, brand us as alcoholics in the international community. First prize for me would be to put our children ahead of money. that fundraising cannot supersede the safety of our children. We cannot put our children at risk because we want to make money. What's the point of making money and losing your children to alcohol? First prize for me will be making sure that if the bill is passed, then at least we put in plan B. We put in plan B where we have parents who are involved, where we have people who are sitting on SGBs. And this is where what you're doing now, Pastor Mhlanga, is very, very important, because now we have to mobilize ourselves as the church. Bazalwane, the time for talking is over. We have to mobilize. We have to have a sit down after this. We have to have a clear plan and a strategy to say, how are we going to sit on these platforms? What is our message going to be? What are we going to say? Are we going to agree a clear approach? What is the modus operandi? What is the plan? So, and let's have a clear strategy. And Pastor Mhlanga, you are central in this. So you also face a miracle. Also face a miracle. Miracle umunsi. We must congregate after this and make sure that we are heard. When comprehensive sexuality was rolled out, we were there. The department decided to roll it out. We put in a plan B. We developed a program called FSE, Family Sexuality Education, which we said as Christians, we have our own faith and beliefs.
Indeed.
And we're teaching it in the churches now. We are teaching them to say, our program is not focusing on your body sexuality. Our family sexuality program educates our children in such a way that they know their identity. It teaches them against anti-bullying. It teaches them about their character. So it's not focused on their physical, biological sexuality. It's focused on their comprehensive identity, so that they're fully developed, well-rounded individuals who will respect sex and not become promiscuous individuals. We said in the face of not agreeing with this, we will develop our own, and we are rolling it out in the churches and everywhere. That's what we need to do. What is the alternative that we will bring? The alternative is to now infiltrate those platforms and bring our strategy to the table to say, this is our community. We take ownership over this community. This is how we want our children to grow up, and we own this thing. And so let me conclude with that. And let me say, Anthea Mhlanga, the march is coming. The march is coming. We've done many marches. I need to buy new tackies, but we've done many marchings, but the march is coming. We've marched several times over many issues. It's coming. We've taken ownership. I've been on many Zoom meetings where I've made submissions regarding GBV, regarding the girl child and all of that. I've seen some of them have been included, even regarding perpetrators from the church who are abusing girls. I've made submissions concerning that, because we have to take ownership over everything we do, not just the good, but even the bad. So thank you so much, Mam Kupe. The work is starting now. So let's go out there, and we've commented, but faith without works is what our Bible says. So we've prayed, and now it's time to strategize. It's time to put our plans in action. It's time to develop a message. It's time to lobby, mobilize, coordinate, and put those plans to all the different schools. Be a part of the governing body, have a voice, be heard, and take ownership.
Thank you very much, Apostle. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for your contributions. And I believe that the church community has heard you. And I believe that, yes, the work is just starting. It cannot end here. We have to stand up and do something. And that is the message from every one of you. I've heard you, even Dr. Cereseto. That is what you have said, that the communities have to participate. Parents have to participate. I think the message that is coming through tonight is that one of participation, involvement. And even Mr. Mhlanga was saying the same thing. And you, blessed viewer, thank you so much for tuning in. You have heard what he said. We cannot cover it all. There is a lot that we can still say, but you have heard that your participation is needed. Your participation is needed. Have we come to this stage in South Africa where now our schools are so poor that they would need fundraising via using alcohol? Or is this a result, one of the benefits of corruption, that our schools now need money in order to survive, and we're gonna go the route of fundraising via selling alcohol, and which our children can easily get hold of? Because when we talk about law enforcement in South Africa, we're talking about something else. It's another area that is so much lacking. That is why even the perpetrators of sexual crimes are not really brought to book. And you who are church people, you have heard, you need to stand up and speak against what is going on, which is not right for you and for your children. You cannot just complain behind closed doors or on social media. You need to go to the relevant structures and register your opinions, your thoughts, and influence policy making, influence the laws that are passed in South Africa. After all, we need these children for the future of South Africa. What kind of a country are we living with our children? Remember, what we train our children on is exactly what they are going to be when they grow up. And if we can destroy our children now, it means that the future of South Africa is destroyed, which means that South Africans might end up drinking and taking drugs, as we have seen with the issue of Kupe, and people will have to come from far away and lead in our country with our children destroyed. Obviously, you as a parent, wherever you are seated, you don't want that. You don't want that to happen. But for you to can prevent that from happening and shape a good future for your child, you have to go out there and participate. Get on to those SGBs, go to those parent meetings, go to your schools, to your children's schools, and go find out what is happening and what is it that you can do in order to help. Thank you so much for tuning in, all of you on UBN TV, YouTube, UBN app, all of you on the website, all of you on Facebook. May the Lord bless you. We are on the Christmas week right now, and I say, may the Lord do good in your life. May the joy and the peace of the Lord be upon you and upon your family. And I speak divine protection over you and over your family during this Christmas time. And I wish you a happy Christmas and a prosperous 2022. And to you, Mr. Mhlanga, God bless you. Dr. Cereseto, God bless you. Apostle Pearl, God bless you. It was a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Enkos.
Amen.
Yeshua! 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 Yeshua!